After Monday night's shutout loss to the Rangers, are we close to seeing the end of the Islanders' longtime core group of players ahead of Friday's trade deadline? Let's talk all things Isles with our New York Post Islanders beat writer Ethan Sears. Ethan, what's going on, my man? It's tough season so far for these guys, huh?
Tough season and a tough night Monday for the
Yeah.
Islanders, Brandon. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Monday night was bigger than just your normal rivalry game against the Rangers. It meant something in terms of standings and if this core group of Islanders could stay together with the trade deadline right around the corner. I guess let's just talk about Monday night before we get into everything else. What happened, Ethan?
Well, Brandon, I mean, this was a 4-point game in the standings. The Islanders and Rangers are both, trying to get that last wild card spot. Obviously, it's a rivalry game. It was the second to last game before the trade deadline. So in terms of whether or not they're going to buy or sell, it's one of the last chances to kind of make an impression on management and kind of give a reminder that, hey, there's still something worth fighting for here. And the Islanders just completely face planted. 4-0 loss. It's a second blowout loss to the Rangers in under a week. Really, I guess aside from the first 10 minutes of the game, there was not a lot of energy coming from them. Really no kind of emotion. The compete level wasn't very high. I mean, if you didn't know, if you hadn't seen the standings and didn't know kind of what this game meant coming in, you would have watched and thought that this was like game 15 of the season. It was really just not a good reflection on where this group is at, not a good reflection or a good message to send to management 2 games before the deadline. And, it seems like that probably sealed, what's going to happen here between now and Friday.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just baffled me because with everything you just said, with that being the last or one of the last times you get to show management that, hey, I want to stay together with my core group of guys, my bros, you would think they would put out a stronger performance. And let's look ahead to Friday, March 7th. That's the trade deadline. Do you think there is a strong possibility that this core group of guys can be dealt? Like, do you think that Brock Nelson could have played his last game as an Islander tonight when they play the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, absolutely. That's on the table. Kyle Palmieri moving is on the table. Depending how far management wants to go with this, then, JG Pajot is somebody who could be moved. Anders Lee is somebody who would have a lot of value if they decided to move him. I think that's probably a little bit more remote of a possibility. But, they've got a lot of defensemen. They could look to maybe flip a Tony DeAngelo or an Adam Boqvist, or, maybe even move one of the longer tenured guys here, although that would be a lot tougher just in terms of contracts and no trade clauses and things like that. So, it's because it's the Islanders, because it's a team that has stuck with this group for so long, and because it's Lou Lamoriello and he is so secretive about things, you I guess kind of have to at least allow for the possibility that maybe they win tonight and don't get any offers they like for any of these guys and decide that keeping everyone together is the best of some bad options. But that would be an extremely hard sell to this fan base right now. It would be extremely hard to put together an argument that that's the right thing to do. And even for a team or a franchise that's been as sort of conservative with this as the Islanders have been, I just don't really see how you can make that argument to this fan base at this point in time after what we saw on Monday.
Yeah, and I think the fan base puts a little pressure on Lou, especially when you see the moves and the trades that Chris Drury has been able to make to kind of save the Rangers season. And these trades may not kind of have a huge impact on this season, but next year, because Islanders fans, as you know, they want to see the winning again. They want to see quality hockey out there. I guess let's wrap it up with this one, Ethan. 5 points out of the final wild card spot in the East. I mean, are you worried about this team checking out? Do they still have stuff to play for? Just give us your final thoughts on this squad going ahead for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's still, 5 points is technically a small enough gap that, like, yeah, they could still, if they win 4 out of 5 games, like, yeah, they'd be right in it. I don't think that's especially likely, but yeah, there is still something to play for here, and you know, tonight, like, they could still kind of make that one last impression on management. They're playing a team in Winnipeg that's number one in the West, so would certainly be a statement kind of game if they could win. Um, and I don't think anybody in the room is going to kind of throw the towel in on the season if it gets to sort of Friday night and the roster looks a lot different. Um, but certainly from a management perspective, um, I think that things will have sort of shifted from trying to make the most out of this season to what's best for the future of this franchise, what's best for next year, what's best down the line, and that's really what should be happening right now.
Do you see any changes in management happening if this team doesn't make it to the postseason?
That's hard to say right now. I don't think you can rule that out. Certainly, the way that Scott Malkin, who's the principal owner, has operated is to be very hands off, and give Lou Lamoriello a very long leash. I know there's a lot of trust in him and his vision and his direction, kind of from above. But at the same time, it's obvious that this group has kind of stalled out, from a roster perspective. It's obvious that things need to go in a different direction there. And, Lou Lamoriello is in his 80s. It would be sort of reasonable on his end to say that, if this is a, I don't know, 3-year rebuild plan that, maybe he doesn't know if he's going to see the end of, that maybe it's best for somebody else to do that. I think that's a conversation for the off season, more than now, but certainly I don't think there's any guarantees that, that the same sort of brass will be here in September for training camp. That's something that we're going to have to wait and see on.
All right, Ethan Sears, thanks for your time, my man.
Appreciate it, Brandon. Thanks for having me.